How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at 5 different Japanese cars that are cool enthusiast cars that you can still get for less than 10 grand. Today there's also going to be a couple honorable mentions at the end of the video, so definitely be sure to stick till the very end because I'm going to be talking about a few models that you can still potentially find for under 10 grand, but is a lot easier to find between like 10 to 15,000 US dollars. But without wasting any more time and starting right off, mind you, this list is in no particular order, but we're going to be talking about the Mazda RX8 first. Now, I know that the Mazda RX8 is very hated, and it's probably the most hated car that I'm going to be talking about today. So before you guys click off today's video, I do have to say that it's got some good things about it. It makes right around 200 horsepower, depending upon the trim. And also, it was made between the model years of 2004 to 2012, and it also came in 2 different manual transmission options as well as 2 different automatic transmission options throughout its life. It has a little 1.3 liter rotary engine, and it is the successor to the much more loved Mazda RX-7. Now, we're not going to be talking about the RX-7 or like the Skylines or the Mark IV Supra or the Evos today, because obviously they're a lot more than just 10 grand. But you could still find a decent RX-8 with not that much mileage on it for under 10 grand. However, a lot of people have said that considering the terrible reliability that RX-8s have, it's honestly not even worth owning it because you're going to go bankrupt just trying to keep it on the road. But again, you can still find decent examples for under 10 grand, and they do have a nice sporty design and can appeal to a decent amount of people. Now, next up, we got the Nissan 350Z or Nissan 350Z, depending upon what part of the world you guys are watching this video today. But the Z, I like it. I like the 350s. I actually did a review on a 2002 or 2003 on my channel. If you haven't seen that before, I'll leave a link on top of the video right now. However, it was back in 2020 when I was just starting off YouTube, so the video quality wasn't that good, but it was still a really fun car to drive. And mind you, that car was actually an automatic that I drove too, and it was still, you know, a decent amount of fun. However, I would have to say that the 350Z is probably my least favorite Nissan Z car out of every single Z car that Nissan and Datsun has ever made. Again, that's just my own opinion, and I also did another video actually ranking every Nissan Z car throughout history. But yeah, I don't like them that much. I don't like the bubbly design. They don't really stick with the Z heritage that much. But they're still fun cars, rear-wheel drive. Again, you can get them in a manual transmission. They make right around 200 and something horsepower, I think around like 250 or so, or 240, and they could, you know, make for a decent little project car, drift car, or even drag car, depending upon how much money you wanted to throw into it. Now, production for these Nissan 350Zs or Z33s ran from the model years of 2002 all the way up to 2009, and I would have to say that if you're looking for something cheap, they really didn't change a lot between those years, so I would just go for like an 03 or an 04. Go for like the early years because you can literally get them for just a few grand, and a lot of them are in decent shape. Some of them are beat up a little bit, but again, they're one of these cars that are super cheap out there. They're in abundance, especially here in America, and they make for a decent car, and especially for the money that you're going to spend. Now, moving on and staying in the Nissan Z category, I have to say that the 300ZX is another car that is surprisingly very cheap. Now, there's 2 different Nissan 300ZXs. There's the Z31, which I think is pretty damn ugly, and then there's the Z32, which I absolutely love. Again, in that video that I made ranking all the Zs, the Z32 came up pretty high on my list just because I really love the design, and it's just quintessential 90s styling and 90s kind of Japanese sports car in my opinion. However, the one main downside to the 300ZX is that working on it is apparently a big pain in the ass because you have a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 stuffed in a pretty small engine bay, and apparently like literally just doing simple things on it means that you have to like pull the whole engine. So it's one of those cars, kind of like the Mitsubishi 3000 GT, which we may or may not talk about towards the end of this video. It's one of those cars out there that it's a real pain to work on, but if you can find one in good condition, I think that it's definitely worth the money. They're also extremely tunable cars, and you could get a decent amount of performance for them, again, without completely breaking the bank. Now, if I had to choose between the Z31 or Z32, again, I would choose Z32 all day. However, the Z31s are extremely cheap because, again, nobody really wants them. The styling is kind of ugly, but you basically give and take a few horsepower here and there. You get around the same drivetrain that you would get in a Z32 depending upon what trim you would choose. So that's something to keep in mind as well. However, I believe that the twin turbo V6 engines actually only came in the Z32s, but still, both are pretty good cars for less than 10 grand, especially if you can find one with not that much mileage and in a decent shape and not completely like beat up. Now, moving right along, I have to give a shout out to the second generation of the Subaru Impreza WRX. Not specifically the STIs, because we all know the STIs can run you for a decent amount more, but the second generation was essentially the production years of 2000 up to 2007, and they included the Blob Eye Subaru Imprezas as well as the Hawk Eye Subaru Imprezas. Both are really good cars. They are, you know, prone to blowing head gaskets. Everyone knows the memes out there. However, if you don't throw stupid modifications at them, they can still be pretty reliable and a really fun car, both on the road as well as off the road. Plenty of people have made rally builds out of them, plenty of people have made track cars out of them, and plenty of people have stanced them out. So they're one of those cars out there that can really do whatever you want to, and most of the time it will be reliable enough for you, especially if you find one with a lower mileage on it. Also, they're another one of those cars out there with a huge amount of aftermarket support. So if you're a younger car enthusiast or you're looking for your first car or something like that, and you think that it's going to be something that you're going to want to modify, these cars have plenty of different things, from just aesthetic modifications down to actual mechanical modifications that are not really that expensive for these like 4-cylinder EJ engines, and can make you a decent amount of power. Also, I didn't say this at the beginning of the video because I didn't really want to annoy you guys, but if you made it this far into the video, definitely consider leaving a like and subscribing down below, as well as clicking that bell icon to get notified every time that I post a new video. As a smaller car channel here on YouTube that posts new content daily, all that stuff really does help me out a ton. But now, moving on to the final of the 5 cars that we're going to be talking about today, I have to say the Mazda MX-5 or Mazda Miata in the first and second generation, so basically the NA or NB Miatas, they're awesome little cars. Now, I know that they're one of those cars out there that you either kind of like love them or hate them, but I really, really love them. As someone who's driven over 100 different types of vehicles and has done a decent amount of reviews on this channel, I cannot not be in a good mood whenever I'm in a Miata. They just always put you in a great mood when you're driving it. They're such driver's cars. Yes, they're not fast, but they do sure feel fast, and they do sure feel fun whenever you're in one. Now, if you're pretty tall or you're pretty wide, if you know what I'm saying, they might not be too comfortable for you. I definitely understand that. However, they're just one of those feel-good cars that you really can't go wrong with, especially if you just keep it clean and you just use it as like a little weekend toy here and there, going out to the park, kind of tearing up canyons or whatever, or actually going like full track mode with it, doing a full-on engine swap or even full-on drivetrain swap and just making a beast out of it. They're essentially our generation's Shelby Cobra, especially when they got 8 cylinders under the hood, which we all know that plenty of people have done to in the past. And with the NA and NB Miatas, if you're looking for just a regular car, not even, looking for an engine swap or anything radical like that, they're a great platform to start off on. And forget about $10,000. You can literally find them for less than $2,000 or even less than $1,000, and they can still be running. They're in abundance. There's plenty out there, and despite some of your Miata fanboys that might think that theirs is, like, I don't know, unique for whatever reason, it's not. Like, there's just plenty of Miatas out there, unless it's like a Mazda Speed Miata or, one of like the special editions. If it's not that, it could be out there, and it could be found for pretty cheap. Now, on the other hand, the Unos Roadster, which is the right-hand drive version of the Miata, especially here in America, anything right-hand drive is going to cost a decent amount of money. However, with the Unos Roadster, I still know people that have bought them and have imported them into the country for still less than $10,000 US. So that's pretty much just going to wrap up our list today. But before we end today's video, I do have just a few honorable mentions, and these are some cars that you can definitely find good examples between $10,000 to $15,000 US and potentially still under 10 grand. So for the first one, we have the Nissan 240. Yes, I do know that these prices have inflated a lot, but there's still some out there, despite what you may think. There's still some out there for less than 10 grand. They're not completely beat up, and there's definitely still some clean ones between 10 to 15,000. Also, another car that I feel like a lot of people forget about, the Mitsubishi 3000 GT. Really, really awesome car. Love the design. It's another one of those like kind of quintessential 90s sports car designs, kind of like the Nissan 300ZX. And again, just like I said before, unfortunately, it is pretty hard to work on because everything's kind of like stuffed in the engine bay. But if you can find a clean example with not that much mileage on it, you should be in for a pretty cool car to have. Now, also, I have to give a quick shout out to the Honda Civic EK hatchback, specifically the EK hatchback. They're my favorite Civic of all time, and I'm not really a Honda Civic fanboy or anything, and I know that they're one of those cars that you either love them or hate them. For me, I kind of like them, but I also kind of don't like them for other reasons. But they're really awesome car. Again, I love the design. I love the hatchback design, and they can be a pretty fun project build for multiple different types. You could do track builds with them, drag builds. I know they're front wheel drive, and some people are like, oh, it's silly to have a front wheel drive drag car. But again, they are pretty cheap, and when you're not looking to break the bank, they could be a great option out there. So anyways, that's pretty much just going to wrap up today's video. Again, like I said before, definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, click that bell icon. All that stuff is absolutely free and helps me out a ton. And if you don't agree with this list, or you thought I missed something, definitely let me know down in the comments below. But if you stuck to the end of today's video, thank you guys so much for your time. I really, truly appreciate it. Also, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed today's video, click on either of these links right here to watch a similar video from this channel, or click on the little circle link right there to actually subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. I do appreciate all the support, but thank you for sticking to the end of this video, and I hope you have a fantastic day.